Coming up on World Insight with Tian Wei, we'll put a finger on the pulse of Chinese businesses in the Asia Pacific, how the business community is dealing with trade barriers, right after this break.
Good solutions to the business community will happen.
This is the amphitheater on board the Pacific Explorer, in which the business leaders are going to meet the political leaders from the 21 economies. Some of them are going to speak. Of course, Chinese President Xi Jinping is one of them. One of the focus people are listening to his speech is about China-U.S. relations. The relations, one of the most important ones in this region. Right before the APEC CEO Summit, the Chinese Foreign Ministry already warned of the zero-sum mentality, which is the signature way of thinking during the Cold War. For many of the economies here in the Asia-Pacific region, they would not want to stand either so-called with the China team or the U.S. team, but rather the biggest benefit they can get is to have a cooperative relationship with as many as possible in order to get the best business opportunities. Look at the ever-changing picture of the Asia-Pacific region, a fascinating place with 50% of the global trade and 40% of the global population all in this region. So this is much more than just the China-U.S. relations, despite of its significance. This is also about many cooperation possibilities in health, well-being of the society, climate change, you name it. And after all, there's one big topic, the free trade area for the Asia-Pacific region, an inspirational idea for economies in the region, but how to work it out, that will be discussed, you bet, at the Asia-Pacific Economic Leaders Meeting. Furthermore, the relations between China and the Pacific Island countries is another focus for this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. Beautiful demonstration of that is shown on the front page of local newspaper almost every day. Something like closer ties between China and the PNG. That certainly is the host country. Chinese President Xi Jinping arriving on the 15th while having his dialogue with the Pacific Island leaders on the 16th. After that, the APEC CEO Summit and the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. Certainly a lot to expect for the whole week.
APEC 2018 in Papua New Guinea. Harnessing inclusive opportunities. Hobnob with the global decision makers as Tian Wei presents diverse voices and sharp interviews.
Our APEC Time special, only on World Insight. You're watching APEC Time, a special program of World Insight coming to you from Papua New Guinea for APEC 2018. On Friday, the APEC CEO Summit is to be held in this island country. It is an occasion in which world business leaders are going to meet with the political leaders to express their views, their suggestions about the state of the world. On that, I talked to Sun Xiao, who is the Secretary General of the APEC China Business Council. He helped me to understand how the Chinese business circle is looking at this occasion and what outcome they are expecting out of the summit. Sun Xiao, welcome to CGTN.
Thank you.
We have a lot of issues going on in the world, but the question is whether two meetings, the APEC CEO Summit and the APEC economic leaders, are really going to provide the solutions. That's what people are asking.
First, the APEC region constitutes 40% of world's population, 50% of world's trade, and 6% of world's GDP. So it is so important to the world. Second, the APEC is an organization for the economic cooperation headed by the governments. Understand, it's the government, so it's become so important, and the structure of APEC is very mature and sophisticated. Not only have the world work-level meetings, but also the senior officials meetings, ministerial meetings, as well as the leaders meeting. At the same time, it has a full integration with the business community. We have APEC, which each economy sends 3 representatives. Altogether, we have 33. Every year, have 4 meetings and try to produce a report to the leaders.
Well, meetings, meetings, and meetings, but whether meetings will really produce solutions, that is the question people are asking. What do you think this time?
I think without communications, there will be no solutions, and we're happy that with APEC structure, the business people can have a chance to have their voices heard. And with this kind of communications, I hope good solutions to the business community will happen.
But the thing is how to make sure those voices will be clearly heard, right? Through what kind of means will business leaders be able to get across what they are thinking about to the real political leaders and make sure are going to be in the process of decision making?
One is that every year there will be similar meetings and there will be the same group of peoples. So if this year not a good solutions comes out, the next year the business community will ask for the same questions. At the same time, I hope there will be some good political leaders. They have the belief in some of the good proposals, and they will use the business community's proposal try to pushing forward some of the good proposals.
Right. I mean, you have been working with APEC China.
Yes.
For a long time, and what is exactly on the minds of our entrepreneurs, our business people from China?
Definitely free trade and investment. And actually for the APEC business community as a whole, as I said, each year we will have a report to the leaders. This year there will be 3 major issues. Number 1, free trade and investment environment. Number 2, inclusive growth. And number 3, to embracing the digital and innovative growth. And we hope that the political leaders could try to create an environment, better environment in these areas.
About free trade, what kind of environment exactly are you asking?
Actually, we found that there are more barriers than before. The costs are becoming high, and sometimes it's hard to trade and to invest. So this is not the business community would like to see. So we try to raise our voices, saying that the protectionism is not what we are looking for.
But what about the other economies? When you're interacting with people coming from the other economies of Asia-Pacific region, the APEC people, what do they say?
Actually, we share the same consensus because the APEC report to the economic leaders actually assigned by the 20-way economic APEC meetings, APEC meetings. So it is a consensus reached by all. And you know, according to the common economic rules, that the free trade and investment is very important because it can make people to, based on their comparative advantage, to doing what they are good at, and then exchange. But then we need a good environment for economic international cooperation.
Are you and your American colleagues seeing eye to eye on this issue?
I think yes, it is. But maybe we have some differences, but in this free trade and investment, we have the same opinion.
But when it comes to how to push these ideas to the political leaders, have you been talking to them about the ways and the means?
At least we are trying to illustrate this and reiterate from time to time and from meetings to meeting, not only in the APEC arena, but also G20 arena.
And was it a good success? Communication between you and them?
I think so far the societies and the communities agree with that, and the economic leaders have some positive feedbacks.
So did I get this right, Mr. Sun, that this year, particularly, you, business people, are going to nail down the politicians to let them make sure to understand what's going on in the world and make sure their policies are going to reflect your concerns?
It's hard to say because the decisions, the power are in their hands. But our influence is try to tell them what is going on, and we are doing this all the time.
But you heard, Mr. Sun, in the news even, that some of the heads of states are suggesting to their business community not to mix up with my negotiation skills and my negotiation strategies by talking about what do you prefer in a world of trade. What would you make? How would you respond to, rhetorics coming from political leaders like that?
I'm happy that the APEC structure gave us an opportunity to say what the business people wanted to say to the leaders, and there's not a blackout. So it's happy that people are here, not only supporting our report, but also listening to what the leaders are feeding back with our report and proposals.
Mr. Sun, as you may know, dealing with the Chinese business community for a long time, the Chinese were starting with the reform and opening up 40 years ago.
Yes.
The economy taking off. Well, at the same time, they're going global. But during this process of going global, there have been debates about what has been really the Chinese role of promoting international business and trade. Are they the only one that is profiting from here? Mr. Sun, what would you say?
I should say the Chinese business community is learning their way to integrate it into the world. And they are making money, that's definite. And I think they are also doing good to their partners at the same time. Because from time to time, we start to learn what is the best way to deal with our partners. Because we are not providing a sole solution for the world. Actually, we are providing options for the world. If we are not doing good and not accepted by our partners from other countries, finally we will be driven out by other competitors. So we know this, and we are trying to do better and better.
Right.
In other terms, I do believe the Chinese government has put forward a term that is the community with a shared future. I think this is also what is becoming a kind of a philosophy in our business people's minds.
Talking about community of shared future, there is also the talk about the deal, right?
Yes.
The talk of the deal has also been used quite often these days. Generally speaking, what is a good deal, particularly when you're going global, the businesses?
A good deal is something that could bring good to all the parties. Otherwise, such a deal will finally be substituted, replaced by other good deals, better deals. So we are trying to do this in this direction.
You think about it, when the business is coming into another country,
yes,
how to make sure you have the right judgment? That's one of the most important things, isn't it? You hear from the governments, certainly, of those economies you go into. You also hear from the grassroots level, the businesses as well. But how to make sure it's going to be the right decision and the right choice? And to whom? That is a question many Chinese businesses, I'm sure, are thinking these days. But how?
I think first is to have a goodwill. And the second is to make sure that you are changing your policies, I mean business policies, from time to time. And the third, have a communication with both the government of the local country as well as the community.
But it's not an easy job to do, right?
So
Let's just say in Papua New Guinea, where the APEC economic leaders are going to be held, this country is rich in resources, mineral particularly. Well, at the same time, it is also one of the least developed economies in the world. So how foreign investors from China, for example, coming in, make sure it's going to be win-win, not only for the short term, longer term as well? That's a question.
Yes, it is. Yesterday, a Chinese business representative from the company, a Chinese company here, told me that actually there are over 50 Chinese companies already stationed here over the years trying to do good business. And they are not here because our president is coming a few days later. They are here because there are opportunities to do business here. And we are here trying to do long-term business. So we need to overcome all those difficulties as well as some kind of misunderstandings. And they are here also tell us that the business here is good. They are the least developed countries, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities. Not only the infrastructure constructions, as well as the digital environment. These are all what the Chinese companies are good at.
The roads here, some of the major structures here, even some commercial buildings right outside on the bank of the river where we are all constructed by the Chinese. When the delegates are coming over here for the APEC CEO Summit and the economic leaders meeting, they're going to say, wow, the Chinese is everywhere. Do you think this should scare them? Or actually, this should make them, in a way, happy and feel more confident about the future? It really depends on how the Chinese businesses are handling themselves.
I think if they are real business people, they are not feeling frightened. They will feel a kind of desire to compete. That is the way the business people think. So we are demonstrating that this country has such great opportunities. So we are actually inviting other business people to come and join hands working together with us.
The Chinese President Xi Jinping is going to give a major speech at the APEC CEO Summit. All years are going to be paying attention to what he said.
We would like to hear Xi Jinping's, our president's, reiterations and continuous support for the free trade and investment. And this is what our business people are looking for. We need a good and a fair playing ground environment to doing business across the region and across the world.
And of course, you're going to hear very different voices. For example, coming from the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Pence. So how is the Chinese business community going to be preparing yourself for some very different ideas? And how do you think you can communicate with your partners in the other countries, and also the political leaders as well, about those specific areas?
I think to listen to different opinions is a must. We need to learn and to study what actually are their arguments lies in. But the second, we always say that to put aside the differences and try to find consensus. And we need to build our cooperations on those consensus. And I believe there are always consensus we can find. And in the past, a lot of disputes always happen, but the world's still going on. The trade and investment are still going on.
This year marks the 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up. We are all products of that, as a matter of fact. But many wonder what's going to be the next stage. Some say it's going to be even more challenging as a result of China's restructuring of its economy, as a result of the changes of the international environment. So what do you think are the most crucial steps from the business perspective?
40 years of reform and open up has told us that we have chosen the right path to reform and open up. So we need to have confidence in this path. But at the same time, we need to learn to listen to different voices from outside and try to improve our internal environments.
And Mr. Sun, as you may know, in China recently, particularly debate about the private sector and what's going to be the future of the private businesses. There have been enormous amount of speeches given by both the ministerial level leaders as well as the state leaders. So eventually, what does it mean, the private sector, for the Chinese overall economy? And what is the road ahead? Some kind of messages you've got?
I think we have a lot of debates on that topic, but it's not a debate on whether the private sector is good or not. It's a debate on how we can help the private sectors to survive and be prosper in the next round of competitions. So I think we need not only listen to the private sectors, but at the same time we need to understand the complicated situation of different private sectors and try to find a way out to suit different cases by different cases. It's not like the state-owned enterprises. It's that easy. We need to have some confidence, at the same time have some patience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sun, for being with us. All the best.
Oh, thank you.